Good, man. Just busy. I just got over COVID last week.
Oh
So
man.
Yeah, I know.
just getting.
He was breathing all over me.
No, I had tested negative on Saturday.
Just,
Saturday night, I was negative.
hey, buddy.
Last week.
Help me out.
You have to go to the hospital or anything?
Nah. It was just terrible. The first 2-3 days, it was just awful.
And you're vaccinated and stuff. Like you got.
Yeah, but I got the Johnson and Johnson. Then I got the booster. So,
okay. See,
yeah.
See, I got Moderna all 3 times, and then I had and then because of my condition, I had to get a whole other extra drug.
Okay.
And every time I take a COVID vaccine, it knocks me out for a day. And this is before I was particularly sick. Every time, it was just knocks me out. I'm trying to get a monkeypox vaccine, but ain't nobody offering it up here.
I feel like we should all get that one.
All right, y'all. So we are live. Ghettos of the Mind, episode 41. We're back in business. Talking politics and shit. So this week, John Stewart was sort of spearheading this bill that he was kind of part of in the Senate passed. It's called the Promise to Address Comprehensive Toxics Act of 2022. Senate voted in, and apparently recently the House didn't pass it. They passed on it, and apparently John Stewart was pissed, rightly so. Apparently they voted against the bill that will increase spending by more than $300 billion over the next decade to boost healthcare and healthcare benefits and disability benefits to veterans exposed to toxic burns in Iraq and Afghanistan. You were telling me, Aaron, it's that they're burning. That I guess they're burning a lot of the garbage and stuff there in Afghanistan, and these soldiers are getting exposed to it. Is that the story? I'm only kind of just so
pretty much. No, that's basically the gist of it. When we have our soldiers fighting overseas, we send a lot of our type of equipment and infrastructure over, porta potties, basically a lot of the stuff that we take for granted that we have normalized here gets sent over. The thing is, though, we have dumps, massive dumps here in the United States. Some of the places we're sending our soldiers don't have that. They don't have infrastructure to get rid of this shit at all. So what we started doing was just burning it. And if you're standing too close, which of course you are basically breathing in hot garbage, which over the years, yeah, it's bad. It's it's muy malo. And the situation is systemically, Veterans Affairs always tries to deny. This is separate from what I'm talking about, but this is pretty common with Veterans Affairs. They don't want soldiers to get any benefits because then the VA is stuck paying for it, which they don't want to do.
They don't want to. It all comes down to money. It all comes down to money. And I mean,
it comes down to priority. I feel like they tell us it's money, it's priority. It's like, well, we used you, and
you're right. It's priorities, but priorities are where the money goes. Their priority isn't that. But it reminds me a lot. I was mentioning earlier about how the first responders at 9/11 were getting sick, they were getting cancer and all that because they exposed a lot of the chemicals, a lot of the atomized building parts that were still there down there. And people would rush down there, and it took them years to get any kind of compensation. And I think John Stewart was part of that as well.
Did that one actually go through? If anything, we got to it popped back up in the
eventually. I'm not. I think it did, but I remember they were making a big issue about it. Yeah, but it reminds me of that whole thing. Yeah, nine responders, 9/11 responders.
I'm pretty sure it didn't go through.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it wasn't like an act or a bill that they were trying to propose, but I know that that there was a lot of attention paid to it, a lot to think about it. But it sounds a lot like it. But he was pissed. He like I was saying, he basically said that. What was he saying? That I got a real good quote that I said that he said earlier that really sort of summed up what I was thinking. But the one thing I got is the thing he says: if this is America first, then America's fucked. You know, he talking about how he's blasting GOP over how they voted against him. He's saying something else. I forgot exactly what he said.
He wasn't surprised. I believe you said something along the lines of he wasn't surprised by the fact that they just been given platitudes and just all that other bullshit, but he was surprised at their cruelty.
Right. But it was something even better. He said that. So
I'll find it.
It's really sad to see how in this political climate that things like this that you think that people would just be all in for, that some politicians find ways to kind of not support it, to just sort of, to sandbag it. It's really, it's really.
The 9/11 fund did go through. This is probably going to come up later in the conversation, but Democrats, work on your fucking marketing. February 2022, Joe Biden allowed $3.5 billion fund from the government of Afghanistan to be used for the victims of the 9/11 attack. From what I'm seeing, yeah, that one was granted. So
yeah, so it did go through. Yeah, so. I don't know.
Just saying, the Biden presidency is great if you actually research and find out the shit he's actually done. When you look it up versus him telling us.
Hey, give the man credit. He's like Haiti, so
I know. I don't.
First.
I actually.
You got to think of things first.
To be fair, I actually like Joe Biden as a president. I don't think some things could be done better. The marketing could be better. I don't hate the job he's doing, but the marketing sucks, and that motherfucker is old. Those are really my real complaints.
Here's a question. Here's a question that I was thinking. Do you think there should be an age limit for the presidency?
There should be a test that's given.
What kind of test? A cognition test?
To a certain extent, yeah.
Should that be just for president? Shouldn't it be for any job? You're gonna be a senator?
Well, not all jobs are created equal, and I think for a president, I think that for the job of being the president, I think you need to take a test if you're past a certain age, right?
But here, can I retort against that slightly? Okay. Just slightly. The problem is with the way our political mechanism is set up, the candidates that are likely to become president are usually around this age range. It's been, you guys
They're
are
not this old though.
Yeah,
you think about it. When Barack was president, he was mid 40s, maybe late 40s.
Right.
I thought he was like 50, but isn't that the exception to the rule? Wasn't he the youngest president?
How old was Clinton? Clinton was about the same age. Maybe he was 50. Maybe.
Right.
Bush maybe.
Mm-hmm.
He may have been 60. I'm thinking maybe, but they're not that old. I hate to sound to be ageist, and I don't really want to, but I think to some degree, it's like, come on, man, we need to get some younger people in office, man. Some of these people are just too.
I still feel as if that's indicative of the mechanism in which people become president. I would like to see younger presidents in power as well. It's just, who else are the politicians, either the Republicans or the Democrats, going to rally behind other than someone they really know? This might be more true on the Democratic Party than the Republicans, but still, I don't know. Flukes can happen.
I think youthful presidents, and I mean, I'm not trying to say young. You want someone that has experience. I wouldn't err on the side of that. I don't want a 20-year-old president. They have no life experience. I just don't think they have the life experience. But then
no Gen Z presidents,
right? Or Gen Z, or
you don't want your presidents going up doing TikTok dances.
Yeah, I don't want that. We already have a senator doing that, which is crazy. But
Barack Obama was a young president, relatively.
Who?
Barack Obama.
Yeah, but he was 40s. But I'm just saying, I don't want a president.
Bill Clinton was, I think, the youngest.
Also, to Todd's point, I'm looking it up right now. On average, with considerations through all presidents, the average age is 55. Where most of our presidents lately have been pretty old. Todd's point is correct, though. They are closer to 55 than, I guess now are 80.
Yeah, I just think 80 is kind of pushing it. You know, I really do, and I mean, it's even Trump. How old is Trump? He's mid-70s, right?
I just know he's like
old
3
when he
years
started.
younger.
He like 76. He's not that much.
Yeah, he's
younger.
not a spring chicken.
No.
You know, and I really think, I really think they really need our modern day politics need a youth injection, and because it just seems that you see so many same old guys that are just to the same old round robin shit. It's like the NBA, these coaches. You see these coaches that would be in the NBA and NFL, and they just get the same old rinse and repeat dudes, like older and older and older. And
my point, the methods and mechanisms in place for these people to get in those positions, it's usually going to be someone seasoned at that age. That's why so many of them are that old.
Season? You telling me by the time you're 50, you don't have enough experience and life experience to be president? President's a hard job. I don't want someone that's 80 that's so old that like they gotta take a nap during the day, or it's just frail.
Now we're being ageist.
I know it sounds. I tried not to be ageist, but
it's okay. I would like a younger president too.
It's not simply ageist, though. Like one of the big problems is that like a lot of these guys are a little too old to understand where things are. I mean, just in terms of like, you have a bunch of people who are in their 80s writing policy about the internet, and it's like,
yeah,
that ain't come without.
Yeah.
That's a good point, Mike.
we gotta slow down this internet thing. This newfangled internet.
What happened?
And like,
there was an interview with Mark Zuckerberg where half those cats didn't know what internet was, and he just had to explain, like, okay, here's how you log in, and this is how you do this. Of course, they sign an agreement when they log on to Facebook that we can share their data. It's right there. Well, what if I don't want my data shared? Then you can't use Facebook. Well, I think that's illegal. I don't make the law, sir. I'm paraphrasing like crazy.
And let me sort of just more.
I'm not a lizard man.
Rephrase what I was saying earlier. I don't want a president that's 80, but I want if you're going to be the older president, I want someone that has a youthful or can think multi-generationally, not someone that's just locked into one generational type of thinking. That's why I was thinking
that idea
with someone that's
popular with someone
that's 20, right? And they think, I'm all about the millennials, and they're like, okay, well, what about who aren't millennials? What about who are boomers or greatest generation or that generation? So you need someone that's going to consider more than one generation. It's not just thinking in terms of their own demographic.
But the problem is, like, I don't think thinking about things as a politician in terms of generations isn't great, right? Because depending on how you count things, I'm a Gen Xer, and like my growing experience, because I was born in 1980. Like technically, millennial doesn't start till 81, and I was born in 1980.
Born in the Gen Xers, buddy. You're part of our team. You're on the Gen X team, buddy. You're on the Gen X team. Yes, you are.
I thought we was one and the same, man. Thought we was hanging. Millennials. Gosh.
Well, really, I'm part of what is called a micro generation called a zennial. Like, I'm part of this like bridge. Yeah, exactly. But that's the thing, right? Because like all the things millennials are blamed for or bitch about are all things I experienced at the same time, but I'm arbitrarily on this other side of a line, and it's like no.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, you could come to the millennial party. We've got lots of avocado toast, man. It's good.
I hate avocados.
Yeah,
okay, never mind.
Join Gen X, man. We created hip hop and crack.
Thanks for that. Thanks. Just so great growing up everywhere. I thought it was powdered sugar. It was not. It was the best toast of my life, though.
Kept you up for 3 days, huh? Couldn't get enough, huh?
But that's what I mean, right? Like we're all experiencing the same set of things at the same time. So the idea that I'm thinking about the millennial generation, like it's not on, right? Like millennials are, you have this like certain cohort of millennials who are like, I graduated college in 2008 and there was no job. It's like, well, congratulations. I graduated in 2004. I didn't start working until 2005. 2008 was a critical point in my career, and the recession tanked all of that. You know, like,
I'll go a step further than you, Mike. I graduated in 1995. There were no jobs then. They were downsizing a lot of the boomers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it all goes in cycles. And I mean, I don't.
So I guess I was lucky then. What about you, Les?
Are dealing with independently.
When did I graduate? 97? Something like that.
What was it like when you got out there?
It was pretty bad. So, there were a lot of layoffs.
They were downsizing people.
They were downsizing.
But I thought the economy was great in the late 90s.
The late 90s?
Yeah,
well, the real. Yeah,
I think it was starting to come around toward the mid to late 90s. But
yeah, but then we had
9/11,
right?
But then 9/11 happened. That right after then, right?
George Bush.
And then you had some more layoffs. Yeah,
I remember.
I don't know, man.
DC in the very, very early 2000s, like after 01, but like before I graduated, I'm just thinking to myself, this is gonna be like this forever.
Really?
Well, again,
yeah, I know.
when you're 21, you don't know nothing. That's not what happened, you know? And then I ended up having to come home back here and, Connecticut's a small market. I mean, I'm just using myself as an example here. Connecticut's a small market and we're going through a major economic downturn.
Yeah.
And there are millions of people, my age and younger, who had to deal with that. And it offsets their career and forever changes their potential earning trajectory. And the annoying thing is that we're all sitting here being blamed for the economy not performing. It's like, well, we were all significant damage was done to us at a crucial time in our working life or educational life.
I do feel for millennials, especially after the housing bubble burst. That and because I also, it's just two things that kind of millennials. They had the .com boom, which was probably late 90s, I think, up to 2000s.
We were still in high school during the .com boom.
Okay, yeah, because they had a .com crash that happened around about.
That I remember.
Yeah, when all the .com fell after 2000 and 2001, 9/11, and then 2008. That's the main thing when the housing bubble, when the mortgage, when Lehman Brothers went belly up with Enron and all those other companies. That was a big thing. So I'm sympathetic, but say again.
I still don't understand how they didn't get prosecuted. That was some bullshit.
Too big to fail. They couldn't allow them to fail. They couldn't allow those companies to fail because they
connected to the right people.
Yeah, they were worried it would hurt yourself. Yep.
During the housing crisis, all those banks got bailed out, didn't.
Say that again.
I had the audacity to be like, we don't want to abide by these new rules you set up.
Yeah.
Motherfucker, look outside. I mean, yeah, but if we have to abide by these new rules, we'll make less money going forward. Motherfucker, look outside.
It was crazy. I remember seeing them saying you can get a $400,000 house for $1,000 a month, and I'm like, really? That doesn't seem to make much sense. People are just buying all sorts of I remember that time people were just flipping houses.
Buy those houses. Why were those houses being sold at that rate?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Easy loans, cheap loans. We were getting loans. Everyone's getting loans. Everyone.
You got to be really careful in the next.
All you had to have was a pulse. You got to get a loan.
Mm-hmm. And now what do we have? Now we have a housing market that's so fucked up. The only people that can afford to buy homes are private equity firms, which is what they're doing and making us all a generation of renters.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I shared y'all remember my conspiracy theory about this, right?
About what?
In my experience with the city of New Haven, housing market crash hit in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
All these houses are back on the market. Mandy Management and others came in and just bought up all the property. It's still like this in the city of New Haven. Most of the...
Yeah, I think I've seen that Mandy Management, yeah.
Good luck buying a house in New Haven.
Mandy, Pike, Fordham. And then
all of it. some of the surrounding areas too. Not that much in Hamden, but yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I think the city.
How about those taxes in Hamden? Yeah. Tell me about that.
And all the new development are these multi-unit apartments that you don't have a chance to own.
That hurts towns.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a town that has all sorts of these huge apartments and all this other stuff, you get no tax revenue from that. The owner may pay some taxes, but he probably writes as much as he can off of it.
Mm-hmm.
And you have, say you have a 30-person complex, they're all paying, $2,000 a month. Yeah, the owner of the building's probably paying taxes, but no one else is paying. So you're not getting that money that you get on a home that you buy. If you're buying a home, you pay home taxes. So it's crazy. So
I guess
you know what's going to happen with mortgages. They're going to just make them 40-year mortgages, just like they did, because it gets so so expensive.
Cost effective,
yeah. Same thing they did with cars, right? Cars used to be 4-year loans, right? Now most people are doing 6-year loans. 6, 7, right?
Or they're going full on lease. You're not even buying a car; you're just leasing it for 2 years.
Yep.
Yeah. Operate.
Oh no! God damn, that makes sense. So nobody ever actually owns their cars.
Exactly.
My boss used to explain to me that's how that shit works.
And in the long run, what does that do? That drains wealth accumulation
because you have no equity, you have no value.
Everybody that's not already wealthy at a specific point.
Yep.
So we can never move up the economic ladder, because if you can't take equity out of your home, you can't even scrounge together enough money to buy a home.
Yep.
Or a car, or any real amount of property. You can't pass on any financial gain from that property onto your offspring, onto your children, or other family members.
I'm gonna have to get that master's degree sooner rather than later, aren't I?
I mean,
try not to spend arm and leg.
What's the master degree gonna do for you?
Some of the jobs I was looking at, they're $78,000 a year to $100,000 a year.
No.
Okay.
That's not what he asked.
So a better job. Okay, I got you.
Yes. Yeah. What do you mean? Dude, I'm still new at this. So I don't know if y'all realize this mentally. I'm taking notes like, I was screwed this way, and I need to be careful so I don't get screwed.
The only thing the thing I'd say to do here, try and not spend as much money as you can on it. If you can get someone to pay for it entirely, that's great. If you have to, I'm not totally saying you shouldn't take out any loans, but don't just do them willy-nilly. I see people who have hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loan debt. It's almost
the worst. It's almost the worst type of debt you could get, actually, because you can't get rid of it.
It is. You can't get rid of it
unless you die. You can't get rid of it.
I had a horror story with one of my coworkers.
Their co-signer gets settled with that debt.
Yeah, like when my sister passed
in my family.
When my sister passed, my parents still had to pay her student loan.
Really?
Yeah. She had passed
because they co-signed for it.
Because they co-signed for it, right? But it was just crazy, man. So I agree with Todd. You got to be real careful taking out.
I think this much. I think if you and again, it all depends on your situation. Obviously, if you have no money, you're poor, and you got to do what you got to do. And you're trying to make a living. You're trying to do better. But I advise, if you are going to college, to save your money on the undergraduate, unless you get some Yale shit or some super school that's going to really push you to the next level.
In my experience, this much I did start to realize it really doesn't seem to matter which college you go to. A lot of times you're going to college for like, I went here and the experience was great. And then later realize, the debt. And this has been my experience with you guys as well. Your advice about like not caring about that sort of thing proved to be a godsend. If I can find a cheap place I can get a master's degree or whatever the fuck my next degree is going to be in and save money, that's going to be more important than, oh God, I get to stay in this luxury dorm.
Well, that's the racket of the higher education racket. So what happens is that They sell to high school students, graduate from high school. Say, hey, you know what? We've got a climbing wall, and we've got a foosball court, and we've got this and that and the other thing.
Predatory practices.
And we have an esports degree, and you can major in that. And you can, and you hear all this thing, you're like, wow, and it sounds great, and you probably can go there and have a great time in college. But the problem is that when you graduate, how will it benefit you? I also don't want. I don't want college to become to a point where it's like, A plus B equals C. I have to go there to get my job to do this. Like I'm going to become an electrician or whatever. Sometimes
it kind of is, like, not exclusively, but it's getting there.
Right. But I don't want. My belief is I don't want college to become that, because I think you lose out. The thing I like about my experience in college is you learn things, you meet new people, you get experiences. And that's something that can enrich you and grow. You try new things. You figure, oh, you know what? I really liked philosophy, and I really want to get into whatever you can get to. You can try things, and that's unique. I think that's part of growth. But I don't think you want to do it at the expense of being destitute. And again, I think if you were going to college,
most of my friends, that's what happened.
Yeah, because a lot of times the parents and them don't know how things work, and they don't think about it. You're not thinking about it, and then when you graduate, you realize, oh, I'm graduate, I got a nice degree, and yeah, I can get a job, but I owe $70,000,
Right.
and then it gets worse, and again, if you want to say you want to go to law school, okay, you've taken out so much loans to go to undergrad, then you take more loans to go to graduate school. What the hell, man. I'm telling you,
lawyers don't really make that much money, honestly.
They don't. They
really don't make that much. They're very educated, but they don't necessarily make that much money.
They have to work a lot of hours.
Yeah.
And same thing with doctors. You think doctors, they make good money, but you have a lot of student loan debt, a lot. And I my thing is if you can, as a parent, I like for my children, to at least get their bachelor's degree without having any debt. And maybe beyond that, if they can, maybe they have to figure it out on their own, at least in terms of if I can help them at that point. But at least getting your bachelor's degree, you should be able to do that with minimal debt. And then maybe if you want to go, look, I want to become a lawyer, I want to become a doctor, or what you call it, get my PhD. Hey, you got to think about how you want to do that and work your way out.
By the way, you are aware. I know you work out of college, but they up the cap for financial aid, right? Like, I don't know what your family income is, but I'm pretty sure your kids would still qualify. I know it's like what? I actually don't know. Is it a year? Is it 3 years? How far are we talking?
In all honesty, you should be able to go to college for free so long as you can maintain like a C average. Like, honestly. Well, I know
how do we make money?
You got at least get a B.
How do we more money out of that?
You got at least got to get a B.
No, here's the thing, dude. Here's the thing, dude. Les, you would say you would say I come off as an intelligent person, right?
That you come off? Say that again?
I would say you just are.
I would say you're an intelligent person, yep.
What do you think my GPA in college was?
I have no idea.
Yes.
I would say that you had a B to an A.
I had a
GPA.
2.8.
That's a B minus.
Yeah.
That's a B minus.
Right. That's a B minus.
That's fairly good.
Minus, right? Wait, what was your GPA?
Yeah. 2.8.
2.8.
Yeah.
You know what mine was?
Might have been 2.5. I don't know. It was like
mine was about 2.5. I was 8. Ooh, you should see my undergrad. When I graduated before I transferred to where I went to get my bachelor's.
My major.
I think I had a 1 something. I was a poor student.
Oh, you were chasing ass, Todd. But yeah.
I didn't do shit at Manchester.
Hey, man.
Holy shit. Maybe that's why I did so well in college. All my shit was online. There were no asses to chase.
There's always that.
Manchester had the things, man.
That was that shit. I mean, but my thing is like, there's so much success out there, and I think if you can, okay, I'll do this. I'll come down. If you can clear a 2, we'll pay for your college. All you got to do is clear a 2, right? B-ish. That sounds fair.
The only thing I would say to that is that there will be a lot of people that will just get that too, right? There won't be people that will try to get a B or A.
I think a lot of people stay through college anyway. I am not anyone to denigrate the merits of an English degree. A couple of my best friends from college had, like, one had an English degree, like a master's degree, but like sometimes people be picking stuff and don't really think about the long term, like in terms of whatever their degree is going to go for. I think a lot of people just sort of fall into a pattern. Now, granted, I also was very focused. I knew what I wanted to do, and I was willing to try to find paths that allow me to do that. But
But I think that decision, and I went through it with my son because my son's in college now, and just going through the decision of what school to go to and what major to get, right? That's not necessarily the easiest thing, honestly.
No,
right? So right, because you're trying to figure out what jobs are going to be not necessarily popular, but what majors are going to have jobs in the future, and things like that. And it's not necessarily the easiest thing. You would think, well, you do computer science or this, that, and the other, but that changes so fast that after you get out of school, after about 2 years, you might need to go back for retraining and this, that, and the other, right?
It's a couple things you said there that I agree with, Les. Sometimes, like when I graduated, when I went to college, my initial degree was going to be in accounting. All my years in Manchester, I took accounting. I took accounting in high school for 2 years. I thought I was great at it. Oh, I'll make accounting. Accounting's make great money. I'll be an accountant. I went to Manchester, took accounting, and every year I just always goof off and basically flunk out, or I withdraw off in the class. It wasn't my interest. I was doing it from the point of view and think in terms of money and not my interest. And sometimes if you think, I want to make money, I want to chase money and do this to make money, you may wind up being miserable about it. I think one of the things I mentioned earlier about college is you can discover things that you like. So in one sense, you think, oh, don't get that liberal arts degree. Maybe get that liberal arts degree, get that well-rounded degree. Figure out a bunch of things that you like.
But what it depends how much that liberal arts degree is costing.
It does. How much else you should spend? Right. How much else you should spend thousands? Right. I agree. But what I'm saying is
please get that liberal arts degree. It'll cost you more money.
Here's what I'm saying. If you again, if you're not quite sure there's nothing wrong with getting a liberal arts degree and then say, you know what, I want to go get a master's degree, later if you decide to. But obviously don't spend, you're not going to go spend, your whole, hundreds of thousands of dollars to do it. That's foolish, But I think there should be
a lot of parents don't have that knowledge, unfortunately.
Yeah, no. There should be room to do that.
I told both my kids that the max they should take, and this is just for my family, the max they should take is 2025 by time they get out of their college. And I guess my mindset was, if they work a full-time job and they get a part-time job, right? A part-time job, most part-time jobs, if you work at 25 hours a week at $15 an hour, you could pay that student loan off in 2-3 years, right?
Yeah,
if it's 25,000.
Yeah, $30,000, you're basically paying off a car. That's right. That's reasonable.
And to me, I was like, kind of try to leave it there because you could work part-time, you could pay it off, and by the time you're 25, 26, you don't have that debt, right?
Yep. And
that's kind of the parameters I try to give my kids when they decided, what school they would go to and those type of things, Yep. But, every family's different, right? But I think to your point, a lot of times those conversations aren't being had by the kids, by the social workers, by the parents. And before you know it, a lot of people get in debt up to their eyeballs.
Because you fall in love with that dream. You said great school, it has all this stuff, all these bells and whistles, and you didn't think about how much it's going to cost you. And again, I'm kind of two minds of it. I think you should try and do things in a way that's just not wasting money. But you should have experiences, man. You should go there and learn about yourself,
versus the way it is. Because let's be honest here, the reason our college system has gotten to this point is, I hate fucking talking like this, but those in power, those who are running the college or funding the college, The predatory companies that are doling out the loans are in it for the profits.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's
because
the government's
you have
fault.
to have degrees to have certain jobs, we're still getting people into these jobs.
Yep.
The moment we actually really fix this problem is when Americans stop going to college because they know it's a scam, which has happened already to certain people, but not enough to really drive most of a change. Effectively, we got our suckers, we took their money, now they're bitching and complaining, and they can fuck off. That's how they're reacting.
I think my generation and mine and your generation, Les, we were brought up with the thinking that if you go to college, everything will work itself out. Going to college is like this huge, you don't want to go to a trade school. You don't want to become no electrician and like that, because a lot of people, huh?
You know, to my generation too.
But now,
but you know what?
Now
they look down on people who go to Gateway.
Right.
I did.
Right. And now you look at it now. You look at it now. It's like, you know what? If you get a good job, if you become an electrician or a plumber or what you call it, man, you can make a lot of money doing that, and you can do that in a lot of places.
The whole multi-million-dollar house on Staten Island paid for by.
Hell yeah! People always need the pipes. They need the pipes clean, or they need stuff built.
Yeah, that was a double entendre.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So I think the whole idea that this whole thing, college is one size fits all. Everyone should go to college. I don't necessarily like that, because I don't think everyone can do that.
There definitely does need to be a shift in the education system so that, like, we put people on paths to success, but like, we also like the other difficulty there is what ends up happening when you start steering people. Because I know, for me, I knew what I wanted in high school, but I essentially had to do all that footwork myself because my counselors didn't necessarily believe that I could do what I said I was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And was one of the smart ones, if you know what I mean.
And why weren't they believing in you? I'm not following, Mike.
You mean besides them being racist? That's kind of happened to me.
I know that's a distinct possibility, but I'm like, Mike is smart. He has a smart background. I'm assuming you've kind of always been smart. I mean, like, why would they stymie you?
It's different in different ways. But like, no, I was always. My AP teacher initially didn't think I belonged in AP English. Switched. A couple weeks later, it's basically just me and him talking. And I'm just talking circles around the rest of these motherfuckers on a book I had already stopped reading because I was not going to read Dostoevsky because it's depressing gobbledygook and I'm not doing it. but
War Beast.
I have a copy of Crime and Punishment and never finished it.
No, I got to like 105. I was like, fuck. No, I got to the one where he was dreaming about whipping a horse, and I was like, nope. I'm done with this.
Yeah, maybe I should start reading. I want to whip some horses.
I like what I think happened is that a lot of, like, when I went to school, the guidance counselors at our school, they doted on the students that they thought were special. Those are the ones who were the ones who could make it. And if you weren't part of that group, you were just also rans that was like, dude, take one course to community college and get yourself a security job. That's pretty much what I did. And I think it's through, I don't know, through happenstance and luck and sort of, right. And I kind of bumbled my way to get to where I'm at now.
They steered too many. My sister, her senior year, had like 4 free periods.
Wow.
And they were like, well, like, why? And she was like, what did you do to my schedule? It's like, well, and my parents were like, why is her schedule like this? And they were like, well, she's got enough credits to graduate already. Like, we just thought, it's like, I mean, my sister walked in and said, why have you fucked up? Like, she literally said, what the fuck have you done with my schedule? Like, they fundamentally don't, and this is far afield of what we started talking about, but we still have to fight. And why I said, like, people's education need to be focused on the path of success, the inherent problem with that is that they are going to put all of us, regardless of our actual ability, on paths that will not be as successful as our, let's be honest, our white counterparts.
Damn, I really had opposite experiences from you. I went
to a white school.
Every motherfucker telling me to go to Gateway.
I went to a white school. You've been
I
out.
went to a mixed school here in Hamden.
You've been out to Brantford. We make fun of people that got into Southern. Heaven forbid you only got into Gateway. You fucked up that bad? Are you that dumb?
Allow me to put it to you this way of just how different a world I come from.
That's how
Mike,
Yeah.
I don't doubt you, but just so you know, the childhood dream of mine from since I was 12 was to go to Southern.
Look, man, I'm just telling you.
I'm not mad. It's just funny as hell.
What the unspoken perception of people.
You know what the questions? I wonder what these same people are saying, what they think now.
I don't know. I got dumb.
They don't. What do they think?
It's so
what the hell
fucking
was
weird.
I thinking when I was younger?
Hell
You know
yeah,
how many people went to so-called great schools that I work with, and I'm like, it just doesn't even make sense to me, right?
Damn, homie. In high school, you was the man, homie.
Right.
The fuck happened to you?
Honestly, and I don't think it matters what industry you're in. After 5 years, once you have 5 years experience, nobody really gives a damn what school you went to. To be honest with you, right? So I really think it's the major and how much it costs to go to that school is what matters.
I do think it does matter to some degree. I agree with you for the most part. Well, let me put it like this: if I'm an engineering person and I go to MIT, that means something. Means something.
So my dad is an engineering person. He went to U of I. When he introduced himself to my lacrosse coach in college, my lacrosse coach was like, "Hey, getting through U of I engineering is no joke." And that's true. Like my dad, and by that point, my dad was working, tech education at Yale. But to kind of counter Aaron's point, where you go does matter in certain circles. Depending on because it opens you up to certain network.
Yeah, exactly.
Statuses and you're right. Technically, it's not that important, but hell, look at this. There's a distinct difference between, say, Louis Gohmert, who went to law school and became a judge, but did it all at some no-name school in Texas, versus Sonia Sotomayor, who went through the Ivy Leagues.
Yep.
There's a distinct difference.
There is a difference. Yep. That's
judge or not.
There's a track. There's like the normal class track, and then there's kind of the ruling class track.
Mm-hmm.
When you go to these Ivy League schools, they're not saying when you go
to find a nice way to say it, but Todd said it. Shit.
when you go to these schools,
Sotomayor are in the same broad striation, but the outcomes are vastly different.
Yep.
Like Louis ain't getting any further than this. It's sad that this is as far as he got. Like he got this far. It's sad that he got this far with whatever it is he got going. But like this is as far as he's getting, which is why he's just gonna be that way. You know.
How many? I was guess I say how many students actually go to these life-changing schools? How many students?
Very few. That's why very few. That's why it's so selective.
Yeah, very few.
I
mean, for the majority of folks, it's probably better to go to a school that you can afford than to go to a name school.
I
for
agree.
The majority of folks.
I agree, and I also think you want to find a good school that you can afford. In a school, it's a school you can afford, but a school that can do something for you. You know what I mean? I mean that and again, and it probably matters less and less depending on where you go. For instance, if Central and UConn, is there a difference between those schools? I don't know. I mean, maybe the student that goes to UConn maybe has a little more access to different things that maybe the student that goes to Central doesn't. But
yeah, I would say
again, it all depends
between
if you can afford
UConn and Central because UConn is known outside of just Connecticut, obviously.
Regional school versus a larger national school. So there are certain tiers, but I also think you got to think within the realm of what you want to do. If you can't afford it, you should. If you come from a poor family, man, you should be trying to. Unless you have stellar grades, you can get into schools. You go get your degree from from a school that you can afford.
There,
Don't go
But
broke.
what's the difference between a regional like private school like a University of Hartford or a St. Joseph that costs $60,000 to $70,000 a year in a century? I would say they're at the same level.
prices. You use the price to keep the poor people out, or the persons you don't like are people that are different from you.
How those schools generally would act is a school like University of Hartford. They have a certain class of students that go there that you know, their students, their parents are paid and they'll pay it. You know what I mean? They'll pay for them. And if I'm going, so you say University of Hartford, which is a pretty, you know, it's a pretty decent school. I wouldn't pick it over. If I had to pay the tuition to go there, I wouldn't go there outside of, say, Central. But sometimes you can get a good deal. Sometimes you can, you know, they may say, hey, we really want you to come here, and they'll give you a good package to you go there, and you're paying comparable to what
That's true. Yeah, that's
so
true.
in that sense it makes sense, but not at that rate, not at the rate that charge.
See, the problem I have, just to use you hard as an example, is if I wanted to go to get a master's degree in architecture in Connecticut, I got two options: Yale, which ain't happening. I can tell you that ain't happening. Like it doesn't matter, it ain't happening. Or University of Hartford, which doesn't offer a version of the master's degree that is appropriate for me because I already have a professional degree. Like sometimes people don't got options, and you just gotta take what you got.
Take what you got, right?
They don't have an online.
I'll give you an example of myself. Library, my library degree. I had to go to Southern. Southern recently, well, not recently. Recently got it back, but a few years ago they lost their accreditation. When you're part of the school, your school is accredited by a certain board. You know, regional and national.
Southern lost their. I'm sorry, Southern lost
their library school. Not
their
library school. Their library school did.
Oh, okay.
So each department sort of had their own sort of governing bodies, which sort of, you know, which sort of are kind of the watch over them, but kind of they're the ones that sort of that keep them in line, that make sure they have everything's up to date. So if you go to law school, you know, you have a certain law board or medical school, whatever have you, right?
Right. Okay.
And if your school loses its accreditation, that's a bad mark on the school. And for a long time, it bothered me about going to Southern because I was like, man, and I'll give you a perfect example. I think I've learned more working than I have learned at Southern. My time at Southern was a joke, you know, but I got my degree. I can use my advantage, and now I'm getting experience. I use the experience to benefit myself to go further.
I don't like thinking of college as a joke, but there were a few times where I'm like, what am I doing? Is this really the assignment? Why the fuck am I doing this? Other times I was like, oh, that makes perfect sense.
It's a means to an end.
Blown. Other times I'm like, oh, because you have to have it said that I took a class that said this.
It's a means to an end. That's all. You're getting that certificate, that degree, which is like it's a certificate. It's like, you know, it's like having I won't say a plumber's license, but it's like having a license that's depending on what you're doing. So.
To be very fair, I know I just said something really negative. I would not trade my college experiences because they helped me grow as a person, which is not really their main goal, but it's a goal I appreciate. I feel like my life has been richer for the experience and just as becoming a more well-rounded person. Being smarter.
That's an ancillary.
Like the super soldier serum with
that's
books.
An ancillary goal. That's what I was saying earlier. That's kind of an ancillary benefit of going to if you go to right college. You know what I mean? You grow as a person. Maybe you have a shitty roommate. You know what? And you know what? You know what, man? If I live with some motherfucking ain't dirty, I ain't never living no motherfucking that's dirty. You learn that, you know.
That's what happened to my son.
I was thinking about it. You said that. Yeah. Or you know, even just like women, girls. You know, you go to college, man, and at that point, man, if you're on campus, man, you can clean up. You know, but it helps you build a little confidence so you can learn how to go out in the world. It's fake confidence, which is the real world. You realize that it don't work the same way. But
experience I didn't get.
But a lot of these things give you life experience, you know, and it helps you to become more well-rounded person. I think sometimes if you just think about it in terms of just transaction, like go to school, I come home, or go to school, do work, come home, that may be fine, and you may learn the actual techniques of what you need to do to become something. So say I become a nurse, I learn my nursing skills. But if I don't learn anything outside of that, I'm not you're not necessarily growing as a person. You're just somebody that has knowledge, has book knowledge, but doesn't have any people knowledge.
Right. And I agree with you, Todd. The only thing I would say is that the cost of college is so much now. Yeah, that people have to factor in what they're learning. Right. And does it make sense for me to be taking this British literature class at whatever it costs, $1,500 for 3 credits?
I want to push back and
spend 4 years, because a lot of times for most majors, it's the last 2 years, right? The first 2 years, it's just you're not really learning anything based on your major. For most people,
you're just taking a general education requirement.
Yeah, you're general, right? And I think a lot of people are pushing back. They're like, "Well, wait a minute, I'm paying all this money. Why am I even in school for 4 years? Right? I could have learned this in 2 years at half the cost, right?"
Could have went to community college. Did that.
Remember, though, colleges are technically not designed to make money. They are designed to make money. They're not regulated like a business. They are a business, and it's predatory.
Yeah. So anyhow, and the government is the reason for that, right? So the government changed the laws, so you can't actually go bankrupt, right? When you have a student loan, you can't include your student loans in a bankruptcy. You can include almost everything else, but you can't include that.
Wow.
Right. So yeah, you got to be real careful with the student loans, man. You can't, like I said, you got to pay it or you got to die, right? And hopefully you didn't have it, and hopefully you didn't have a cosigner, right?
I don't like thinking about how things are stacked against me. I mean, everyone else.
Oh man,
I don't know if I think it's just information, right? So you just use that information so you can make the best decision going forward.
What you need,
right?
So anyhow, I want to talk about this fuckery in New York, about your Bishop Lamont Whitehead. So apparently, earlier this week, Bishop Lamont Whitehead, a bishop in Brooklyn, he was robbed while giving his sermon at church.
Is he a bishop? Like, is that like?
That's what he calls himself. He could be, I don't know. Who knows what he is? But apparently he was robbed. And I guess what was funny is initially they said it was like $10,000, and every time you hear it goes up. Now it's up to $1 million. He says robbed mid-sermon. They robbed him over $1 million of jewelry. Him and his wife for $1 million of jewelry. I'll give you some of the things he had. This is what this guy has. He's a bishop in Brooklyn. $390,000 Cuban link chain, $200,000 men's gold link chain, $125,000 wedding ring, $75,000 Rolex, $75,000 Cartier watch, $50,000 wedding ring, $25,000 Episcopal ruby and diamond ring, $25,000 Episcopal diamond ring, $25,000 pair of earrings, $20,000 diamond and emerald cross, $20,000 Episcopal ring. How many damn rings?
You know that nigga in the streets, right? But ain't no way you got all that.
So here's the story. So when I heard this, I was like, I didn't hear. I'd heard the amount. And I was like, wow, you think that's crazy, man. They robbed this dude at church, man. How dare them? Clutch the pearls. Oh my God, they robbed the bishop. Then you hear a little more about it. This fucker was charged with fucking fraud of stealing from the church, another like $500,000. So it's like, and then the more you hear about it, you notice how the price keeps going up. Originally, I thought it was like $30,000, and now it's $300,000. Now it's $1 million. I think this guy is trying to hit insurance claim. And if you think about it, why is it so public that this happened to him? Like they did it on YouTube. Like he's on YouTube, and it's a video of him being robbed, him and his wife. And the more I hear about this whole story, the more I'm like, this smell test doesn't pass. Doesn't pass the smell test. Because it's like, if someone's gonna rob you for all these stuff, wouldn't they rob you before you got to church or in the church or any other time? Why would they rob you when you're in the middle of the sermon, when you can be seen?
And if he was that
Also, you have to
flashy,
park
they
the
all knew
building
where
for it to
he
be insured.
lived.
Right.
Right.
He
If he was
drives
that
a
flashy,
Bentley.
right.
He drives a Bentley, all that bullshit.
Why I go back to my question? Why are you wearing all that at church?
I think
I obviously dress up, but like you don't need all that to go to church.
Right. And to me, it's like, come on, yo. This is real shady, man. This is
I ain't
real
dying
shady.
on this bill.
I'm actually I mean, unless they're cahoots, if they're not ghosts, they just robbed him. I'm rooting on the robbers. So go sell that shit and make some money, you know.
You Robin Hood ass motherfucker.
I don't care, man. This dude's driving a Bentley and all this other stuff, and he got. You should see the pictures of him. There's a picture of him with a Fendi, like a Fendi jacket on. I'm like, come on, man. Are you kidding me? This is just beyond ridiculous, man. So yeah, it's just craziness to see this dude. And you see me crying about it and all this. And I listened to him saying that they should allow pastors to carry guns. Oh, really?
Half the pastors carry guns
like
anyway. It ain't like they got a law against
churches get shot up in the last couple of years.
Oh,
the last church I went to had an armed security guard.
Yeah, no, a friend of mine was doing that one time, doing armed security for churches. Yeah, it gets real.
The guys got him now, and they ought to with the way folks.
Right, I don't mind that. To me, that makes sense. But should a reverend have a gun? Should you be packing a pistol?
Why not?
I would feel like I'd rather have that duty
like it's
delegated to someone else.
I'd rather him have a pistol than $400,000 worth of jewelry on. So.
Well, yeah, okay. If you're gonna put in that sense, yeah. But I'm just saying that I don't want him not be protected. Don't get me wrong. If he has to have armed security with him, that's fine. I just don't know if I just don't know if I want the reverend to have a gun. That's what I'm saying.
Well, that speaks more to what's going on at the church or where the church is located. Then, to a certain extent,
to a certain extent,
to
a certain extent. Look what happened in South Carolina. Some dude that that wasn't. I don't know if it was in a safe area, but some kid just infiltrated a prayer circle, start shooting people. You know, so it can happen. It can happen. Any
Our country
type
has
of church.
a long history of this.
Of what?
Just school churches getting shot up. That's a long history of them being bombed or burned. Modern history of them being shot at.
I don't know.
There's a lot of examples of it.
Can name some? I'm trying to look at any.
Dylan
I know that there's one. Yeah, but that was more recent. There's also another one in Texas. Right. But I'm saying
I think there was one in Carolina not too long ago. I don't remember which one. And I feel like there's more than that, and I could just Google them. It does. It's one of those things where, because these type of stories have been sensationalized the same way shooting up schools have been sensationalized, the person who's just a demonstrable piece of shit is just going to target church. Hey, there's a prominent black church, or just a regular ass church, for that matter. Attacks in synagogues, that type of thing. It's like some of the last places that should be attacked, schools included, get attacked, just because on the basis that on some level these cats know they shouldn't be attacking them.
Well, I think they do. I think a lot of times they do it. And if you look at the case of Dylan Roop, I think that was the same situation of the same guy in Buffalo. These are soft targets. He knows that he's not, that I can just, like that church, they welcomed him in the prayer circle, and then he just went shooting them. You know, and the same thing with the guy in Buffalo. He went and just basically went to, a local grocery store with a lot of elderly people and shot it up. These people are just really, they're looking for soft places to apply their evil deeds.
I like that expression because it implies that like every place needs to be fortified.
I guess so. I get what you're saying, but I
don't want to make that argument.
Yeah, I don't want to make that argument, but I don't know.
Please expatiate on your thoughts anyway.
I mean, that's it. Everything's a soft target. Like we're not all tactical. I don't know. It's just I don't. Calling every place a soft target like sort of gives into the idea that we all need to be primarily ready to to escape from or respond to violence like we're trained paramedics.
There's something else even with that. Just because you're armed during a shooting doesn't mean you'll actually survive or be able to put down the other person. I like the idea, but in practice, it doesn't happen that often.
Right. Because we're not in a fucking Rambo movie.
Yeah, if you start standing up screaming like, "Ah!" You're getting shot. You're loud and you're standing in the middle of the place.
I'm still reading about this preacher, man. I'm like, this dude, he looks real funky, man. He's real. I'm trying to figure to get an idea.
I want to find out what type of charity
is he like a prosperity? Is he like a prosperity preacher? Is he like the Creflo Dollar and
I used to like Clefo Dollar.
You used to ride with Creflo Dollar?
Like him. Yeah, we used to watch his services every Sunday as we're getting ready for church.
And Joel Osteen and all them.
Yes, actually.
Benny Hinn.
I honestly see all of them as false prophets. All of them. Like, it's just, I mean, like, I'm not gonna begrudge people's wealth, but like, there's a point at which, you know, I mean, I understand coming in money, but like, why you got like a $10 million home? Like, you don't need that.
Yeah.
like
I would always
I overlook the football stadium you call a church, but like, why you got a fleet of cars, a $50 million home and a private jet?
Yeah, why do you need a Bentley?
I mean, like,
why do you need a Bentley?
At least like the Catholic, like they have like monasteries and they all just sort of live in the little monasteries that are all decked out in gold and shit. But you don't like see like personal mansions. With the exception of like the Pope and like
right. You know what the Catholic Church does? Go ahead.
No, let's hear more.
You know what the Catholic Church does well? They hide their wealth well.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Catholic Church has a lot of money.
They're the largest landholder.
Well, because they got a lot of land.
They're basically a country.
But you look at a lot of these prosperity preachers, and it's like they have, you know, Creflo Dollar wants to buy a $60 million jet. And Aaron Copeland, you know, he's all these other weird. They have these huge extravagancies. It's like, yo, these guys look like fucking kings.
The whole thing is a scam, and like this is the general problem. For as much as like faith has done good things, especially for the Black community. Like,
thank you.
This class of people are using people's faith to enrich themselves.
Mm-hmm. Goes back a long way.
It does.
Father Divine.
Even if we go back to when DJ initially brought this up, my point of view came from me like, why do you need that much stuff to be up in church? I think we really need to. Evaluate how ministers are using people's, you know, desire for faith and redemption as a means of imposing hierarchical power structures and then becoming wealthy off of that. Blew right past that whole point because we wanted to talk about fraud, like, and I blame all y'all for that. But
you can talk to me about that one. I'm listening.
You know what the thing is though, the issue is it's religion and it's someone's belief, and
because it's a power structure.
That's the thing. If I can get you to, if you believe something fully,
power structure, and especially if you look at the Black community, if you look at how top down and only it is, I often see that as a direct response to the fact that outside of the church, as we were forcefully converted to Christianity, we had no right to no power. So people tried to assert some amount of control in whatever place they could, and that place ended up being the church.
I think I agree with you to a point.
You already know my counterpoint to go.
But I also think that you can't deny how the Black church was instrumental in the civil rights movement.
Oh no, I don't deny that at all.
I would also
it wasn't the point of view because it was the only structure that we had that allowed us to first be educated, because you couldn't get education unless you were reverend, you know, unless you joined the church or you became a Christian, you know. Then eventually it became the place where you could go to kind of, you know, had the structures to allow you to get education and move forward in life.
I would also like to point out in terms of charity, community outreach, Reformation, prison ministries, and just general actually working with people who are the most marginalized or impoverished,
Yeah.
that's the church is doing a lot of that outreach. Like even with some of these big ministers, they're doling out lots of money to either help people in other countries or help people in their own cities. Where yes, your comment that some of these guys are becoming rich or living extravagant, I can't say the word, very wealthily off the money they're making. I think that's a fair criticism. I would also like to point out the other things they're doing with that money.
But you know what though, I look at myself. If I were leader of whatever state church, Creflo Dollar's church, there's no way I would have a fleet.
How would you be living? What type of house would you be living in?
I don't know. I definitely wouldn't live in some huge, 15, 90-room mansion and get my own private yacht. I mean, I think there's a certain amount of, if you are if you believe in
are you doing this by like the percent of what the ministry is bringing in? What if this is actually a very small percentage?
I don't think it's. I don't think so. I think it's optics. I think if you are a church leader, you should have some common sense and realize that not everyone in my membership is going to be is going to have these things or have access to things. I shouldn't be the richest person in the membership. If I got a $300,000 chain on, do you think anyone in my congregation has a $300,000 chain? That's ridiculous.
Especially because the Bible preaches against that sort of thing.
It does, yeah.
You're not supposed to have graven imagery, all this, because we're not supposed to do idolatry. A lot of Christian denominations do it anyway, and I don't understand it.
They find ways to justify it.
Our brains focus on symbols. Like it's because it's our brains focus on symbols. Like we're never not gonna have, something to look at, and it's just all our brain is going to project onto that image or that object you to get through the day. We're always like we are not evolved enough to not be idolaters.
Muslims, they don't do that shit.
Yeah, they do.
What symbol are they worshiping?
I mean,
writings.
It's.
I know they have an art style, but that doesn't seem like the same thing.
People always project ourselves onto something. Just because you don't recognize that projection doesn't mean it doesn't. What
do they have for? What do the Muslims have?
I mean, it's okay. Look, why?
Honestly, if you say Muslims, it might be the mosque.
It was a big thing in that original.
A lot of times the mosque is going to be extravagant, but I would say the mosque.
It doesn't. It doesn't
building.
Matter. What else are we talking about tonight? Like, what's the?
Yeah, all right. We kind of ran that out. Anyhow, so in last news, called after this. Has anyone seen the Will Smith apology? He gave his official apology.
He apologized?
He
apologized.
It just happened, but that just happened today.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it.
Excuse me. I guess we're not on current events.
So he did a 5-minute video where he answered selected questions from people about what happened. He sort of explained the whole incident of what happened. And
did he blame Jada?
Did he blame himself?
He
didn't blame Jada?
No, he did. He didn't. He basically said
fuck his apology.
Damn.
Fuck that bill.
Damn.
Here's
what I think.
Come on, man. That. Do you know what happened? Is that woman embarrassed the hell out of him, right? And he just lost his damn mind, right? And I think that's really what it comes down to, right? He didn't have any self-confidence. She done took all his freaking self-confidence and he just lashed out. And it just happened to be on national fucking TV. But
here's what I think. I think
he can afford it.
I think you're right, but I also think you have to look at who he did this to particularly. Meaning,
I want to know specifically what he said. What are the major points?
So they asked him, I said, why didn't you apologize after you did it? Like, when you won the award, you didn't apologize to Chris because he apologized. He apologized to his mother, his brother, and he kind of went through the whole rigmarole. And he said, why did you apologize? He's reading certain questions that he got from I guess fans or whatever, and he would answer the questions as they go along. And one of the questions they asked is, why didn't you apologize after you won the award? And he would say he was in a fog. And which I kind of think is bullshit. I think it was ego. I think he won that award and no one had and he slapped the dude. He went back down to his seat. He won his award. And he was like, "Hey, I'm Big Willie." His ego, and he was blinded by that. It wasn't until after
But
all
he
this
was
shit happened.
crying while he was giving his award.
He was crying because
I know he was partying like hours afterwards, but still.
he, again, I think that was traumatic. I think part of it. I think he started to realize what he had done, and I think after all this happened, he saw, this is not just something that's gonna go away, and I think this apology, it's a little too late. He done it, and hey, let him apologize. It's with his right, and at least he's saying the words. But I think it's a little too late. Had he done this apology a week later, he might have got a lot more goodwill. I think some people are going to forgive him, but some people just are just they're going to always look at him cross-eyed for a long time. Which, hey, he earned it. He deserved it.
Did he say he's going to therapy?
I don't know if
going to address any of his toxic traits.
I don't know if he said that. If he said that specifically, he did say that he had some work to do, and he said that there's things that he had to work on with himself. He said.
I hope that includes a divorce.
Yeah, I hate to say it. This seems like that might have been one of those empty platitudes. Like, we're sending our thoughts and prayers. We take your complaints very seriously. We will endeavor to do better in the future. What are you specifically going to do?
Yeah,
better in the future. That sounds nebulous. What are you going to do?
Here, the optimistic person in me thinks that he was trying to apologize, and it was a little late, but at least it was sincere, and he's trying to sort of make things right. The cynic in me thinks that what, this is him trying to get his career back. This is the first step. He knew he had to do it. He couldn't not apologize. He had to do something very public and very I think, and he did it in his own way. He answered questions, so he didn't have, say he had just read a speech, then people would ask these questions. So what he did was he said, "Look, I'll answer these questions, these cherry-picked questions, and I'll answer them through my statement." Which, hey, if it works for him, it worked for him. But I think this is him starting to kind of eke back into the acting world by issuing this apology.
I mean, he's definitely doing his best to try to repair what he can of his image. Yep. I don't think he took as much of a hit as we're all saying he did, but the hit he did take was obviously a result of a very public incident. And he's worked for decades to cultivate a very kind of amenable attitude about himself, which is why people often forget. Like, he's nice, but that don't mean where he's from is nice, and it don't mean that he doesn't know how to act in that particular environment.
Mm-hmm. He has a bit of a dark side too. So, which everyone does. I can't really say anything about that. I think that his biggest
I know
mistake.
He's gotten physical with people before. Something along the lines of I forgot what the story was, but I know something similar like this happened before. Hold on.
I mean, I really think this whole thing, and I'm kind of done with this after this. I'm kind of tired of it. I think a lot of this is, he wasn't being his authentic self. I think, when you can be your whole self, and maybe you're a little goofy, maybe you're kind of mean and kind of a dickhead at times, and maybe you're funny and and he was always putting on this smiley, good, happy face. I think it's the same thing with Bill Cosby. Same bullshit. Bill, yeah, I know. Well,
he was hurting. That's why he was smiling so much, laughing off every fucking thing. That's crazy.
And the other thing that adds to it is how and get back to his wife. He does need to divorce that damn broad, because at no point did you hear her. You know what? If your wife saw you do something stupid, do you think she would try and stop you? At least, hey, wait, don't go up there. At least try and stop you. She didn't do shit, and she hasn't done shit to say, look, hey, my man was stressed out. He had something going on. Even just to have his back. Not to say that it was justified, but just to say, hey, look, this is going on in his life, and we still support him. I've kind of watched her little bullshit, the red table talk shit that she puts out at where her and her daughter and her mom talk bullshit. And
it's crazy that she don't respect her own
him.
husband. Right?
She hasn't respected him, and the problem is he hasn't demanded respect from her. I think you gotta demand it. And it's too late now.
I appreciate what you're doing because you're also flipping it back on him and looking at his response to this.
I don't know about the dynamics of their relationship, but like, if you get to the point where you have to demand respect, then you may as well just pack it in.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Exactly.
You're right. You're right.
I don't know what the nature of that relationship is, which is why I don't make comments on it. Everybody got dynamics. They might have a shame kink. I don't know.
Maybe they do. Maybe but even if they did, even if they did, I had read somewhere that Ozzie Davis and Ruby Dee had an open marriage. Hey,
works for them.
It works for them. Hey, make it work for you. But this ain't working for them.
It might have been an open marriage,
is not
but
working
that don't
for
mean
them.
It was a public marriage.
But here's what I'm saying.
Right. So
whatever thing they have is clearly isn't working. Because that incident was a symptom of something not working, or something not right, because that was super public. He could have easily had waited till after the show and beat Chris' ass, and no one would have known. It would have been water under the bridge, or it would have, he wouldn't have got as much.
Just had a nigga moment. There's always we got nigga moments.
Yeah, we all.
When you don't process your trauma or feelings, or constantly trying to suppress your real self or how you actually feel, it's going to manifest itself in ways you do not want it to. And as Mike put it, a nigga moment.
Anyway, that was one hell of a nigga moment. They even stopped talking about the Ukrainian war for like 2 days. Talk about this real shit.
Our culture.
It's got to be for white folks not to be talking about other white folks.
Yeah.
The last thing.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, one of the saddest things I encounter with my job, more than I should, is I'll run into clients who are victims of domestic abuse, and at one point when you really hear what their issues are and what they're willing to do and what they're not willing to do, you start to realize the abuse is part of it. Their situation, the circumstance is part of it. The other thing is it's just them. People only really change when they're ready to. You can throw out the lifelines, you can offer help. In this situation with Will Smith, his situation is not going to, at its core, resolve itself until he's ready. If he's not, then there will probably be other explosive incidents like this. Maybe it's a divorce, maybe it's talking things out, maybe it's seeing therapy, but unless something changes, his circumstances isn't going to.
I think I would agree with you if nothing had happened and say he had won this award and everything had went on the same and he had to slap Chris Rock and he was best actor and he just partied everything. I'd say that would be the case. I think he's forced to now. I think because it was so public and so in your face, how can you ignore it? A
hell of his own making.
He'd be
that with Diddy.
He'd be a complete fool to totally ignore the situation. He'd be a complete idiot. Anyhow. Any other thoughts on the apology? He'll be all right. Last thing I want to talk about. Have any of you seen this whole thing that's going around with Sesame Street characters dissing black kids?
I saw that.
Wait, what?
Think of that. Like I don't know what to think of that. Like I know that comes down to the person in the suit, but like I don't.
Yeah,
I don't know what to make of that.
So there are a few videos floating around, and two I've seen. Two I've seen. A third one that I'm kind of am sort of iffy about of these kids that are in a parade, the Sesame Street parade, and the character in the outfit will go and high five a white kid. Go, hey, high five a white kid, and the black kids behind them. The one in particular is these two black kids behind this white kid, and they high five the white kids, and the black kids behind them. They put their hands up, and the character goes, "Nope," and he walks away.
Yeah, I don't get that. Like, I don't know why you would do that. Like what?
Is there more context? I don't.
I think it,
right. Like you want to know if there's context.
That seems like such a weird. If there's like a racist dude in a costume and shit, like that's still fucking weird. Why? That's where you get revenge. It raises too many questions.
Did he actually say no, or did I'm
did.
just trying to understand?
Let me see.
What the fuck is the context?
Let me see. But yeah, he the one that I saw, the character clearly saw the kids and clearly ignored them. It wasn't like it's one thing he not see him and maybe he didn't see him, his head was turned. He looked right at them and shook his hand and basically said no. Like it's like wow. And and I get it. Those kids are traumatized, man. You take your kids to see, the Sesame Street thing, and all of a sudden, Elmo just gives your kid the middle finger. That's traumatizing, man.
Yeah, if that's actually what happened, that's terrible. But I'm just thinking, if you're at something like that, you got hundreds of kids, right? And you can't go up and hug every one of those kids if you're a character. Right, and I maybe I just need to see the video a little bit more.
Let me see if I can find.
I saw this one a little bit. And I'm like, there's more to this. There has to be.
All right.
It's just weird. Like it's just weird, and you don't know what to make of it because it doesn't make any sense. Even in the most when you try to bend your brain into the most racist version, it doesn't make any. What?
You would just do that. That just seems crazy, right?
Small children.
I'm trying to see if I can find it.
Oh, the Milestone Generations for everybody who got HBO Max. The Milestone Generations documentaries out now.
Oh, really? I saw that on at Comic Con, one of DC cons a couple years ago. Here it is. I'll show you. This one's blatant. This one is like, damn, yo. Let's see here. Share screen. Go back a page.
Let's go.
You see that?
No.
Nope. Still thinking.
I see a screen that's blurred. Nothing else to.
We ain't doing that.
Here it is. See it now.
You see it? So what do you think?
Do you think he just didn't see the kids under his hand?
He saw them, yo. Look.
Oh, yep. There it is.
He saw it. I mean, you can't. So there's another one like that. And
the only thing I would say to that, Todd, is where's the rest of the video? So does he keep walking, and does he wave off white kids as he keeps walking down the parade route?
I don't know.
I think that's the only thing you just got to be careful when.
Yeah,
I don't want to jump
just 10 seconds,
right? So here's the other thing. He had another video. Some family is just trying to sue, and I saw it, and you could see the character's back was clearly turned. You just see the kids, and that one was more blatant. So that one kind of muddies it a little bit. So, but I don't know. Part of me, I think the way that's what you handled this was kind of was a little.
Are we
dismissive.
looking for things to be triggered by?
Of course we are. We're in the social media generation. Everything pisses people off. Say the wrong tweet and people get pissed at you and can't see.
I often think the people who are getting pissed off on this little shit on Twitter is like, you clearly have nothing more important going on in your life.
Yep.
I often feel like it's better to ignore those people.
Twitter
sucks.
Hard to know those people because it's easy. I can feign outrage and get 1,000 people to dislike something, but it ain't real though. It ain't real. A lot of these online campaigns, a lot of this stuff is just it's more for show, So I do think this character may have ignored him, but maybe he was just tired. He's like, no more, But it looks bad for Sesame Street, and I think the way they responded was kind of they were dismissive of what happened, and I don't know what answer they could have said that might have changed things, but they didn't make things better, And it's hard to say. It's sort of weird, but it did seem like he did some little kids though.
But this is kind of the problem.
Could you imagine if it's your kid? How'd you feel?
I was there. I'm reacting now. I have a core belief. I never try to trigger a tribute to malice. What could be written off as ignorance or just a mistake, which is more likely to be. There's some racist in the costume, or they had to get to the next part of the show, or there was a line. I I don't feel like it's smart to make condemnation and judgment on scene in 3 seconds.
That sounds very noble and very, what you call it. Explain that to a 6-year-old kid that might be crying because of that.
Well,
I think
would
they had
say
to get on
this,
with the rest of the parade,
if it was really race, and maybe it is, and I don't know, but because that was just a 10-second clip, right? But if right, so if I brought my kids to like that place in Pennsylvania before, and there's hundreds of kids, right, standing there for the parade, that the characters aren't gonna be able to go up to every kid, right?
Yep.
And I know that, right? So I don't know. Just based on that clip, it's hard for me to say if it was just racist.
It's one thing. It's one thing if they're like, just don't go up to your kid. You know, they're seeing thousands of kids and they don't see your kid, or maybe your kid is the next one in line and they turn away and walk off as your kid goes in. But that was where they kind of just said, nope, I'm out of here. I've done my quota. You know, I don't know. I mean, it's just even if it's not racist, it's very it's
rude. Yeah,
rude.
What?
It's like, come on, man. These kids are, you know.
So, what do you think his thought process was? Do you think it could have been one of the?
He probably had to piss.
Okay,
Right, man.
He had to piss. The fan stopped working in the top room or something.
Probably had a lot of reasons.
I have a similar situation, man. So, because I work for a not-for-profit, right? We have to collect a lot of information on people's backgrounds, so we can show the state which groups of people we're working with. Before I ask any personal questions to any of my clients, I always do this. I'm going to ask some personal questions about your background because the state wants this type of information to show proof that we're working with anybody and everybody. Then I ask them marital status, sexual orientation, race and ethnicity. I was with another one of my clients when they why
the hell are they asking people their sexual orientation? I'm sorry.
Because they may be transgender and want any particular accommodations, any number of reasons.
Oh, it's a different reason, but that is a good point. We ask people this information because so later on when the state, specifically because I work with victim services, the state wants to know how many victims we're having in the state that are a part of this or that group. Are 30% of our victims Black? Is 20% of them white? What type of crimes are being attributed to these people? Because if we're just collecting all this background data on everyone, never anyone specifically, our data will show that it's mostly African American women who are being victimized, or it's specific members of the LGBTQ plus community who are being victimized, and they're always being victimized this way. This way, our organization later I say this entire thing to all my clients, by the way. This way, my organization can later go to the state and say, we need more funding to serve these or that communities because these are the ones being the hardest hit. I know all this shit, and before I ask anyone, because I know how that comes off, I get your reaction, Les. I talked to someone in a different agency, and they never went through that to explain. They were so busy trying to serve one of my clients, they never gave them the breakdown, i.e., they treated my client like they were customer number 370. Without the full context of what this person's thought process was, it just came off as very dismissive and impersonal. I explained to my client why they asked that information to put their mind at ease. In these situations where you're around kids, you're working, you have all these deadlines, you have to be here or that for that parade or whatever. This person easily could have been thinking, oh shit, I got to get with the rest of the guys I'm lagging behind. Like, no, sorry, I've got to get back over here. Their boss, their other thing. There could be a whole greater line of context that this person is following that we're not seeing. This is why I'm saying, without knowing more context as to why they reacted this way, I think it's better to withhold judgment. We don't have a full picture. We have 3 seconds.
Aaron, I agree with you, but I also would ask you to put yourselves in the shoes of that parent. So because I mean, I agree. I get what you're saying. It logically that makes sense. But if you're the parent, you have to deal with that. How, you know, it's hard. I
would tell the parent to understand there's a person underneath the
I'm asking if you were the parent. What would you tell your 6 and 7-year-old daughter what's happened? How would you explain it to
I would probably tell them.
Why didn't whatever it was, character didn't, why didn't they say hello to me? Why did they just flip me off?
Oh, because they had to get up with the rest of the parade.
I just saw him talking to the person on the road. You just went right slap hands with the other kid.
I know they got to talk to everybody. Maybe here's what we can do. If this really gets you, we can walk way up into the crowd, see if we catch them and get another chance to see them. Would you like to do that? Or hey, you know what? Someone else will come by. Let's see if anyone else comes by. We'll say hi to them. Yeah, I know that's not fun for the parents, but
yeah, I think. But honestly, I think that's the correct response, right?
It is.
Because I think that's
just assuming
exactly the correct response, right?
Thank you.
It's not an easy response, and I get the student. I get
that's
the parents,
life.
I get the parents' anger though. I get the parents' feel. I'm not gonna say the parents are. So you think the parents are wrong for taking the issue on this?
I don't know, because all we saw was like 3 seconds or 5 seconds, right? So if there's more context to it, right? If they have 5 minutes beforehand where they see the person in the costume talking to all the white kids, and then doesn't talk to the black kids, then that's a little different. But just based on what we watched, there's not enough to it, right? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I still think the person's rude.
Yeah, it's rude. I
wouldn't say racism, but
all these other
it is kind of rude, though.
It's rude.
But I feel like this is just bad customer service.
Yeah, and that happens, right? That's going to happen anywhere. That'll happen to a kid. That'll happen to adults. That'll happen anywhere.
It's kind of, I feel like it's a good skill to learn how to deal with the fact that you're going to get disappointed. These type of things do happen, and learning how to cope with them is good. Sometimes the thing you really want to happen, no matter what your age is not going to happen. Learning to cope with it versus, learning the world has to give you everything you want. That's a bad lesson to learn. Learning that, hey, sometimes the mascot you want to see has to hurry along with the parade or whatever the hell's going on. I could be wrong. I could be wrong if that's what's going on, by the way. That's what I feel is just the most likely answer.
So essentially you wouldn't, it wouldn't bother you. You'd be fine with this.
Yeah, well, depends how you're acting.
Why would I assume they're
I'm asking if that situation happens to you, you're videotaping. Oh, look, that's whatever, Emily, whatever the character is. You go take a picture, your child goes, there's 4 kids. He high fives the first 2 kids, your 2 kids, he goes.
I wouldn't be mad at the parent, like, oh, so the other kids get a high five and my kid doesn't. Good job. I also feel like that's a normal American reaction.
I don't know if I would make a big deal about it, honestly. I don't know if I would make a big deal that they didn't get it. If there's 100 kids there, the character cannot take a picture with 100 kids, right? I just don't see that. I don't see that happening.
I guess my thing is it's not so much he take a picture. The fact that he took the time. He, instead of giving a high five, he specifically was like, not you two.
All right.
You know what I mean? There's a difference. If he just ignores,
I've been in those type of costumes before. I've been captain entertainer. I've emceed birthday parties. And the entire time before the people come in, I'm stressing the fuck out. I'm thinking like, oh my God, if I react the wrong way, they're going to freak out. And I have to make sure this whole new crowd of people are warming up to me and they're totally okay. And I have to be careful. I have to know the right music. I have to try the song, which ones works. It is fucking nerve-wracking. I manage that really well. Most people don't. It's not.
I'm suddenly crashing. I'm sorry.
When that mic hit the bell,
I think we've squeezed enough juice out of this lemon, so I think we need to call it a day.
All right.
Go to sleep then.
Yeah, but let's finish up, man.
I hope you catch some sheep and count them. Do your sheep dream of electric sheep?
I'm going to put a link to my Gmail account, not my Gmail, but the channel's Gmail account. If anyone has any ideas or like participate in the future session, please send me an email. We would do.
I still want to play Among Us with everybody.
What's that? Anyhow, goodbye.
Night, y'all.
All right, fellas. Good night.
All right, man.
Bye. Less is more.